In this lesson, we'll go through the steps to configure the hardware required for running a Windows Network Load Balance cluster for our CAS array. Now, my client access servers are virtual machines running in my Hyper-V environment, and I've already shut them both down so that I can make modifications to their virtual hardware. So we have CDX1, which is off, and CDX2, which is also off. I'm going to open up the settings of CDX1 to begin with. As you can see, at the moment I've only got one network adapter connected to the Sydney network. So before I can configure Windows Network Load Balancing, I want to add a second network adapter. It will also be connected to the Sydney network. And because of the way Windows Network Load Balancing works with MAC addresses, we actually need to enable spoofing of MAC addresses on that network interface. Apply that change, and I'll just go ahead and do the same for CDX2. Okay, now I can go ahead, start up my virtual machines, and when the operating system is finished loading, I can log back on and perform the next steps, which are configuring the TCP/IP properties on those new network adapters. My servers have rebooted, and I can begin the next steps, configuring the TCP/IP properties on those network load balancer interfaces. So I'll start with CDX1. As you can see, primary IP address 192.168.102.11 is still there, and now the IP address of the second network adapter, which is currently coming from the DHCP server, is also visible, 192.168.102.33. So I'm going to go ahead and configure a static IP address on that interface. Now, just to make things easier on myself, I'm going to rename the interface first. I'm just going to call it NLB. And now I'll go ahead and configure the static IP address on my network. No default gateway. We also don't need any DNS servers or Win servers for that matter. And also want to make sure that this network load balancing interface does not register in DNS. Everything else there is fine for now. So now I just need to repeat that on my other server that will form part of the network load balancing cluster, which is CDX2. So I'll go ahead and do the same steps on CDX2. First I'll rename that interface, and now configure the TCP/IP properties and give it a different static IP address than I gave the other server. And once again, just be sure that the NLB interface is not registering in DNS. Next, I want to make sure that the network load balancing features of Windows Server 2008 are actually installed. So I'll just open a PowerShell window, import the Server Manager module, and you can just run get Windows feature space NLB. And that will return the status of the network load balancing or NLB Windows feature, which at the moment is not installed. So I have to go ahead and add Windows feature NLB. That was successful. There's no restart required, so let's just check those results again. You can see this time we have this little X here indicating that the network load balancing component is actually installed now. So once again, I just need to repeat those steps over on my second server to make sure they're configured the same. So now both of my client access servers are configured with a network load balancing interface that has its own dedicated IP address, and they also both have the network load balancing Windows features installed. So the next step will be to form the Windows NLB cluster itself.